Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network with Donald Eng. I'm Rob Adams. All earphoned up here because we'll have a calling guest in a little bit. Tom Keys will join us, the head coach of the Norwalk Bears. We'll talk some basketball with us in about 10 minutes. Don, how are you?
Well, you know, Rob, one of these days we're going to time the opening wrong and still be chit-chatting when the mics go up, and then the people will get an insight into the smiles.
We have seen that flame burn around here a few times, and thus we keep the conversations very reasonable when we get close to airtime, but nonetheless.
That's always the plan. And you know, it's going to be an exciting day. We've got some early round basketball action that happened last night. We've got some more discussions to break down the brackets today. More games today. The hockey starts tomorrow. Just, again, it's fun.
It is. It is a fun time of year, and it's coming off a fun show yesterday as well. I thought that was a good one.
That was great. You know, that Anya was great. It's just, and it's great to see the women's athletics. I mean, of course, having just spent an entire show talking about how they want to be athletes, not women's athletes, but just having the CT whale and the excitement for hockey. It's great. You know, I was just looking. She's kind of undecided on her future, but whatever she decides to go into and do, I'm sure the future is looking very bright.
And of course, that's all online. You can go check it out from yesterday's show. But Anya was just great, and
I want that Isabel Cup back in the studio.
Absolutely, we want to.
Well, she's got to win it first.
I was going to say, yeah, it hasn't been awarded yet in any way, shape, or form. This being the end of the first year of the NWHL, so hopefully next year we'll have something to talk about. And I hope she stays. I hope she keeps playing. Still young enough to play, and but she has to stay in hockey. She is a worthwhile advocate and a role model for sure. So
no question about that. And and personality like that, just really you love to see that in sports. It's someone that's participating in sports at a high level and really loves the game.
Yeah, absolutely true. All right, let's turn our attention now to some of the tournaments going on. Really should probably spend a few minutes on hockey. Let's save the basketball for Coach Keys coming up, but let's talk some of the hockey because you've already got some local games going on and then more local games tonight into tomorrow, with D1 really getting underway tomorrow.
D1 gets underway tomorrow, and the interesting games, I think, you have the 1/16. We always talk about, when the SCC versus FCAC, that's always the two mega conferences in the state. So we have two FCAC teams, Greenwich and Ridgefield, the 5-12 matchup. They're facing off against each other. The winner takes on Hamden or Northwest Catholic. Hamden with a record, the 13 seeds 7-11. Northwest Catholic 15-5. But again, with the upstate teams' level of competition, we could have a matchup that we're interested in as early as the second round.
Yes, we could have a bunch of good matchups as early as the second round. In fact, and I think D1's just going to be great fun to follow. I really do. I mean, it always is, but
there's been no dominant team. I mean, I'm looking at the bracket right now. 16 teams. I probably could make a solid argument for a good 5, 6, 7 of them. Xavier, the top seed, could win it all. Fairfield Prep's the 9 seed, but you never want to vote against them. Then you go down the list. Greenwich coming off an FCAC championship. Notre Dame West Haven, Notre Dame Fairfield even, Darien, Simsbury. It's a loaded and unpredictable, and that's what makes it interesting just to talk about and to watch.
Even going back to Saturday when the brackets were first being talked about on our airwaves, I agreed with Frank Granito and I agree with Dan Nowak, who I just read the thoughts of this morning from the New Haven Register. I'm buying in on Notre Dame of West Haven. I am big on the Green Knights. I think they can, and I know they're a 2 seed. It's not exactly a sexy pick to say it, but there's a little something there, and sometimes you got to have a little bit of, I don't know. I don't want to get, too more spiritual, but I think something's got to go your way is what I'm saying.
You would think. I mean, they're coming off a tough overtime loss in the SCC championship game. They probably get East Catholic had a tough year. Didn't really fare too well against Division I competition. You have to assume Notre Dame can get by them, and then but by now you're into the battle of the Notre Dames. Those two schools split in the regular season. So if they do make it, they're going to have to earn it. They've got Darien also, and the Simsbury St. Joseph winner in that same bracket. So I'm not one that really believes in fate, but definitely they're just a good team, so I can see it.
I mean, sometimes you just get that team, and I always think back to a team like the '69 Mets, like the '96 Yankees. Yes, they were their best at the very end of the season, but something had to go right. I always think about that Yankee team I'm telling you, virtually nobody picked that '96 Yankee team, with the exception of me, who thought they could win it in 7 games, and it took them 6 in the end. I'm not saying that makes me all that smart. I'm just saying that when I broke it down, I saw that was a better team than people thought. but there was still something there with Frank Torrey and everything, and I'm not trying to turn this into pro, but I think with the Doug Caliendo story, you got a little moxie going with that Notre Dame of West Haven team.
Does that work for them, or do they come out tight?
I don't think it does. I think they've been playing very loose and good hockey for a while.
They have been.
Now, they're 13-6-1. I understand that, but they also play a heavy D1 schedule, and that works in their favor.
They play a schedule that consists exclusively of upper-tier teams from Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island and New Jersey. So certainly no shame on a 13-6-1 record against that competition.
I had a question sent to us via the various forms of social media, and they want to know, could New Canaan legitimately knock off Darien? I have to be honest, I don't think I see it.
I don't see it either. I think... there was a stretch during the season where I thought New Canaan was playing their best hockey and they were capable of it, but just the way those, I think also New Canaan got a tough break with Darien getting upset in the semis of the FCAC. I think they're going to get an angry Darien team, and that was just a bad break for New Canaan. I don't see an upset there.
I don't see it either. I do know that New Canaan's got that little girl with a curl type of thing. When they're good, they can be very good, but when they're bad, not so much. So I think there's something there. If they play their best game, if they truly buy into the rivalry and all that good stuff, then without a doubt, they can give Darien headaches. Can they win? I just don't know. I don't see it. I'm sure we'll get.
But other than Darien, you really could make that same analogy about most of the FCAC Division I teams. I mean, St. Joseph got to the FCAC finals. They lost to a Division III team during the season. I mean, Ridgefield, we've been saying all year long, Ridgefield has been up and down. Same thing. Greenwich lost to the Fairfield Co-op.
Yeah, they did.
Any of these teams could knock each other off. I just, unfortunately for New Canaan, I just don't see the Rams pulling this one out.
I'm excited to see it either way. All right, so we've got Tom Keys coming up in a moment. We could take a break. We can reset, continue on. We'll get to some more hockey if time allows later in the show, and we'll go heavy on basketball with Coach Keys as we continue on for a Tuesday Nutmeg Sports. We're back right after this on the HAN Network.
Here at the Darien Sports Shop, we are very excited about our newly redesigned men's department. Gentlemen, if you're shopping for work, weekend, or wedding, we've got the latest styles and trends inside our spacious new department just for you. We have vast selections from Peter Millar, Vineyard Vines, Johnny O, Duckhead, Barber, and so much more. And you can even walk out of the store in the new Wolverine 1,000-mile men's boot. Conveniently located with free and easy parking at 1127 Post Road, Darien, Connecticut. Or shop us online at dariensport.com.
Can't wait for it to get warmer so you can start fishing again? Get over to the Dock Shop, where they have the latest in fishing tackle, marine electronics, boating supplies, and more. But remember, the Dock Shop isn't your average tackle shop. You'll also find the finest selection of nautical apparel, jewelry, home decor, and gifts in New England. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, dockshop.com.
I'm Kate Chaplinsky. Join us for Coffee Break, weekdays at 11 to get the latest Connecticut news, weather, high school sports, and more. News doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break on the HAN Network.
You are watching the HAN Network, and you're not alone. 102,000 viewers have enjoyed the HAN Network in just the last 6 weeks. Advertise on the network that reaches Fairfield County, Connecticut's most engaged audience. Contact Jessica Murrin, Advertising Director, at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports. It's a Tuesday afternoon here on the HAN Network. Donald Eng's over there. I'm Rob Adams. Happy you're with us. And we're going right back to bring in a guest we had on last week who did a great job with us, and happy to talk to him once again. He is the head basketball coach at Norwalk High School, Tom Keys. Tom, how are you?
Hey, Rob and Don. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Happy to have you back. I mean, it's a great time of year, obviously not the greatest time, and it's a great time to be a fan. For you, well, you're a fan at this point.
Yeah, at this point, I'm a fan. I mean, we've come to the realization that our season didn't go the way we wanted, and we've had time to reflect on that. And now I'm just, enjoying, having a really good time, watching the other teams go at it. March is a great month if you're a basketball fan, and it doesn't matter if it's in college or in high school. I just love the month of March, and I'm excited about the state tournament. I think there's going to be some real exciting games.
I do too, and I think Division I'm got to get off of hockey now and get over to basketball. Class Double L. I think Class Double L is going to have some pretty good games. What do you see as do you have a particular game that you think to yourself, I wouldn't mind going and seeing that one?
Yeah, well, I mean, really the Double L is loaded as is usual. And there's a lot of teams in there that I've seen already and I would like to see again. And really, right off the bat, when you look at the top of the bracket, obviously Fairfield Prep is the number 1 seed. Most likely they'll move on, and then they're going to get the winner of a really interesting game, Ludlow and West Hill, who just played 2.5 weeks ago, and West Hill won the game 56-55. And now this will be a rematch. Whoever wins out of West Hill, Fairfield, Ludlow, I'm sure they want a piece of Prep. Ludlow played Fairfield Prep earlier in the season and lost by 4 points in a really tight game. At the end of the game, Rich Kelly from Fairfield Prep took over with about a minute to go. I was at that game, and Ludlow easily could have won. And then obviously last year's state championship game up in Mohegan Sun, West Hill gave Fairfield Prep a run for their money. And, really a lot of people saw that game, said, Prep probably should have lost the game to West Hill, and West Hill just came up a point short. So the one real game that really excites me is definitely West Hill and Ludlow. Both teams played well down the stretch of the season. Obviously, West Hill is one of the hottest teams in the state right now. Howard's really got them playing well. Tyrell Alexander had a great tournament. And for me, the big thing for West Hill was the emergence of Parrish Rowell. In the last, 2 games, really the semifinals and the finals of the FCX tournament, when this kid gets the ball and gets going downhill towards the basket, you really can't stop him. So Ludlow's going to have their hands full tonight, trying to keep Parrish Rowell from driving out of the paint. But also, West Hill's going to have their hands full with Ludlow because they got a really good young coach, John Daly. And, he was last year's FCAC Coach of the Year. This Ludlow team had Danbury on the ropes at the FCAC quarterfinals and just came up short and lost in overtime. So, is Ludlow going to be able to match West Hill's size and length? I think so. Ludlow's a very good team. They're a little bit younger than West Hill, and maybe, the West Hill kids have the experience of winning in the big game, but I can see this one going right down to the wire again.
Right.
So, probably that's the main game that excites me. And then there's another FCAC matchup that I keep looking at, and I just think, this game is going to be really tight tonight. It's going to be, right up in your wheelhouse of where your listeners are coming from, Stanford and Greenwich. The game's at Stanford High. That's going to be a defensive matchup. The first team to 45 points is probably going to win that game. Stanford, as you guys know, has Jay DeVito, who I think is one of the all-around best players in the area. And, he does it offensively and defensively for Stanford. But Stanford just absolutely needs another guy to step up, maybe Marte or Laveris, to score along with DeVito because, Greenwich has a really high-powered player, Connor Harkins, who can just, I can see him putting up 35 on anybody. The problem is he's got the best defensive team in the league guarding him tonight. So, Melzer's going to have his team ready for the defensive assignment of stopping Connor Harkins, and Greenwich is going to definitely need another kid to step up, and that should be another great game as well.
Coach, looking a little bit further down the bracket, we have the Danbury Hatters, the number 2 seed. They've got Staples in the opening round, and then that 15-18 game winner. Tell us a little bit about them. How far do you see them going in this tournament? Well, you don't need to tell us exactly that, but what do you think they need to do to really be a factor?
We're talking Danbury?
Yes.
Well, first off, your first question is going to be, does Danbury have the hangover from the FCAC tournament? They played a great tournament and just lost to a really hot West Hill team. Now, speaking from experience, that's exactly what happened to us last year, and we did come out and we beat Shelton by almost 40 points, so there was no hangover for us last year after losing in the FCAC tournament. Casey's got a senior-heavy team. He's a good coach, and they have a familiar opponent coming in. Oh, sorry, that's...
It's just the bell at Norwalk, no big deal.
I apologize. I'm in school now. School is
no
out
problem.
I was gonna say, open a window. Something's burning.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Tom. You're
Can you
okay.
guys still hear?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay. I would say, Staples is a tough game for Danbury as well, because Staples is really well coached and they're going to play solid defense. Moving on, whoever wins that game, whether it be Danbury or Staples, could have an interesting matchup with McMahon if McMahon can take care of business tonight at a very tough Hamden team, who I've seen also, who really matches up, is very similar to McMahon. They're a little smaller, very athletic. That 15 versus 18 game up at Hamden tonight, I expect that game probably to be in the 70s. And watch out, it might even score in the 80s, because both teams have guys that can really score. Brian McMahon has, I think, one of the more dynamic players in the area in Jamarikai Greenyounger, a guy that I know real well. Unfortunately, I've had to go up against him for the past 4 years. That could be a great game as well tonight, and you possibly do have a second-round matchup of two FCAC teams, which would be real exciting for Fairfield County basketball.
Yeah, it would be very good. I'm going to throw something different at you, and I'm going to try to approach this as best as I can, because I don't want you to have to be put in a spot that you don't want to be put in. But long-winded, here's what I'm getting at. Shelton went and forfeited their first-round game against Crosby. Crosby is moving on. Shelton was the 25 seed, and of course, Shelton did have a loss of a player on that team. Just take me inside the mind of a coach. That's what I'm kind of looking for you to do. Not tell me what you would do. I don't want to put you on the griddle. But take me inside the mind of a coach for a moment with a situation like that.
Well, first off, that's pretty much the unthinkable for Shelton. We played against Shelton several times in the past couple of years, and their head coach, Brian Gardner, is a really good guy. And, that whole program, every time we played them, they were really nice kids. Like I said, they were here last year during the state tournament, and, they were a young team and building towards this year. And just, for that tragic accident to happen to, the player from Shelton, it's just heartbreaking. And, really, as a coach, you're not thinking about, basketball is probably one of the last things on my mind when I'm dealing with my players. You look at these kids, you're with them all the time. And in this case, this kid was a senior, so he had been with the Shelton basketball program for 4 years. And to be honest with you, they probably knew the kid from before he was in high school. They probably known him for, since he was in 6th or 7th grade. You start getting to know the kids in your town. And, it's just, it puts the whole thing into perspective that, these kids, you look at them, as kids like they're your own kids. And to see, a community and a basketball program and the whole high school have to deal with such a tragic loss, I definitely do not blame them for not playing the game. I don't think anybody does. And, if they're grieving and mourning and they're not ready to play the game and they don't want to play the game, then, certainly none of us should have any issue with that at all. So, Shelton had a great year and, very unfortunate event. And again, in the big scheme of things, is playing a high school basketball game that big of a deal? Probably not. When something like this happens, it kind of puts a lot of things into perspective.
And we're talking, of course, of Ed Conklin, who died in that accident really just about a week and change ago, and we've got the picture up on the screen. And basketball player, baseball player as well, and an accident right out on Bridgeport Avenue, unfortunately. But turning it back to happier things, let's look forward. Are you keeping an eye on the other classes? Of course, Double L is so FCAC heavy, so that's why we spend so much time on it. But do you glance at the others? Do you see what happened with Wilton last night? What's on your mind in the other classes?
Yeah, well, when I look at Class L, historically, you have two teams that I still consider FCAC teams in there, Bassick and Harding, two Bridgeport teams. And, I think either of those teams, they could meet in the final this year of the Class L. Bassick's going to have to get by Wilby and then Windsor. East Catholic is a team we scrimmaged, a very good team too. But we definitely, as a fan, again, I keep an eye on all of the brackets. You go all the way down to Class S. You have Trinity Catholic playing in Class S as the number 19 seed, I believe. and they got a game coming up tomorrow with Classical, who I honestly couldn't tell you anything about, but I would expect after playing Trinity Catholic this year and seeing them play all year that they could certainly make a run in the Class S tournament. They have all the tools. They have good guard play. They got a really strong point guard. They got a great shooting guard in John Lyons, and they have two big men that can just dominate a game. So, I'm looking at all these brackets. Again, probably as being from the FCAC and being double L, I follow that bracket the most, but there's plenty of good basketball all across the state in all of the brackets.
One thing I was curious about, looking at Class M, St. Joseph, the lone FCAC representative in there, do you see anyone beating Sacred Heart?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you this: it's going to be St. Joseph. If I had to make a prediction, St. Joseph will be there in the quarterfinal versus Sacred Heart. I think St. Joe's, they get a 24 seed coming out of the FCAC in the Class M tournament. This team can score and score some more and then keep scoring. They really have Chris Watts has done a great job, and as of late, that team has really come on. They're playing very well right now, and probably had they won one or two more games early and gotten into the FCAC tournament, they would have been a real tough matchup for anybody. So, I guess if I had to pick anybody in Class M to go up against Sacred Heart and maybe beat them, it would be St. Joe's. Now, that's a really tough matchup. Sacred Heart has, Mustafa Heron is the best player in the state of Connecticut. He's a possible pro someday, and they also have some other kids on that team that are really, really good. So Sacred Heart, I probably would have liked to have seen them playing in the double L, but they're not. They're in Class M this year, and maybe as an FCAC fan, I get to see St. Joseph go take a shot at them, but that's still really far down the line, and you got to just take it one game at a time.
Tom, great stuff. I want to do it again as we keep going through the tournament, so hopefully you'll join us.
No, that's fun. Next time I just have to find a different room.
No worries. We had fun with it anyway. Tom, thanks so much.
All right, thanks, guys. Enjoy the games.
All right, you too. That's Tom Keys, the head basketball coach at Norwalk High School, and kind of an extra part of the family now here at the HAN Network. We'll take a break. We'll continue on Nutmeg Sports right after this on the HAN Network.
Denali is your outdoor retail destination in the Westfield Trumbull Mall. For the last 21 years, we have carefully selected clothing, footwear, and gear from a variety of the best outdoor brands, such as the North Face, Patagonia, Vineyard Vines, UGG, Merrell, GoPro, New Balance, and many more. Our stores have a friendly, knowledgeable staff to help you with all of your running, hiking, and cold weather needs, and in discovering all things outdoorsy and awesome. Visit us in the Westfield Trumbull Mall or online at denalioutdoor.com.
When you experience a sports injury, you want to get better and fast. Coastal Ortho Express gives you direct access to orthopedic care quickly. Their physicians are fellowship trained in sports medicine at world-class universities and are also team doctors for area football teams. For specialized personal care of sports injuries, go to Coastal Ortho Express, open Monday through Saturday in the iPark building, 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk, or coastalorthoexpress.com. Coastal Orthopedics, keeping you on the move.
Do you do a lot of running around but get nowhere when you're buying a car? Visit Pamby Chrysler Jeep Dodge and Ram for the one-stop buying experience and stop spinning your wheels.
Walter Stewart's Market in New Canaan is your time-saving local shopping destination for the best of spring. Find many of your favorite products, from great specials on everyday items to the freshest organic produce, artisanal cheeses, and grass-fed steaks. Chop off your knives to be sharpened, grab a beautiful bouquet of spring flowers, and stop in next door for a wine tasting. Plus, their personable staff is always ready to lend a helping hand. So stop in to Walter Stewart's Market, 229 Elm Street today, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter. And I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune in to Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN Network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
You are watching the HAN Network, and you're not alone. Nearly 500,000 viewers enjoyed our broadcasts in the first 5 months. Advertise on the network that reaches Fairfield County, Connecticut's most engaged audience. Contact Jessica Murrin, Advertising Director, at 203-273-6900. 888-888-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports. Eric Gendron is making me laugh off the air, and that's part of the fun here. Don, it's not all that long before we're into April, and we are indeed playing baseball again.
Isn't that fantastic? Is there any better phrase than pitchers and catchers report? It's a nice day out right now. I've got to head out in a little bit. I'm just hoping I can put the windows down and find a baseball game somewhere. I don't care if it's Grapefruit League. I just want to hear baseball on the radio while I'm driving with the windows down. I
know if you go to and I'm not here to sell the MLB app, but I think if you go to their website, they actually do some free spring games, which is nice. Now, whether you can find it on radio, that's a whole different story. But I know for a moment, and I'll spend just a moment here, I turned on the radio on Sunday for just a touch, and all I heard was the dulcet tones of one John Sterling. So to me, we're off and running. But to that end, of course, just a mere 8 miles or so from where we're standing is the ballpark at Harbor Yard. Of course, it's the home to the FCAC Championship, as well as a few other baseball-related events that are, FCAC and so on related. They get to host some games, including a Ward-Ludlow matchup that we'll have, and we will let you know our schedule. It's going to come out. We've got it pretty much all finalized, and we have a little bit more wiggle room in some of these games than maybe we've had in the past. So we're going to have some fun with the schedule this year, but it is pretty much done. We can tell you April 2nd will be game number 1, 11 o'clock in the morning, as we go to Norwalk as they christen their new high school field right down the road, in fact, from the high school. So we're excited for that. That'll be here before we know it. But back to the Bluefish, they've signed kind of, I don't want to say a local legend, but certainly a guy who for a
fan favorite. A
fan favorite, at least a Mets fan favorite, certainly for one moment in his career, without a doubt. And sometimes all you need is that one moment.
Yeah, that is, Met fans have fond memories of Endy Chavez. I almost called him the great Endy Chavez. Endy de Jesus Chavez, left-handed outfielder, hit .278 as recently as 2014 in the major leagues. So you have to figure he can contribute to the Bluefish.
Did make one of the finest catches you will ever see in professional baseball history. One of them. I don't think it's the best. To me, it's not even debatable. I saw Junior Griffey make some. Of course, Willie Mays. We're not even going to go there, but. And you can't even say it's the best postseason catch ever, because Willie Mays' famous catch against Vic Wertz was in the '54 World Series in Game 1, so that kind of trumps all of them. But that really was just a tremendous catch. I think what always stuns me by it, and I remember that night, I watched, like so many, I watched that game. Chavez makes that catch, and I thought to myself, that's the kind of play that you galvanize off of that. That's just, the Mets are going to the World Series now. And lo and behold, and they even got offense going the following inning. I remember that clear as a bell. But of course, Yadier Molina, and then the big breaking ball to Carlos Beltran. Good night.
Yeah, and truth be told, Met fans have just never they never forgave Carlos Beltran for that. That Met team, by the way, if you remember, finished 97-65. Endy Chavez, a big part of that run. I think Met fans were just shocked. There wasn't any doubt in their mind they were going to the World Series.
I don't think there was either, because you're right. The 2-run shot given up to Molina. They come up, of course, and they rally in the bottom of the 9th. The World Series is sitting right there for the taking. And Beltran, that was a nasty breaking ball that Adam Wainwright threw to Beltran. And for the Met fan, if you
certainly had a good look at it.
If you're killing Beltran all these years later, you're clueless, because he carried you guys at times. But I guess that's neither here nor there. Anyway, I am ready for the state tournament. As a spectator myself, it's going to be fun to watch.
It really will be, and I think Coach nailed it. That West Hill Ludlow game, round 1, 7 o'clock at West Hill, is the game of the first round. And then the question becomes, both those teams have size, which is one thing you need, because they most likely will have Fairfield Prep in the second round. Prep can dominate with size inside, but Ludlow and West Hill both have some big kids to negate that. So those first 2 lines on the graph are the ones I'm looking at.
Trying to see if I can find a champion out of it. Do you have a pick?
Can
Prep repeat? Is it theirs?
It's
and
tough.
Can you say this without a bias, Donald? No, I'm kidding.
It's all going to come down. They got a tough break with their starting center twisting his ankle. He missed the championship game where Prep beat Hill House, And if Prep is going to repeat, they're most likely going to have to go through Hill House. Although Hill House, of course, has a semifinal matchup with Danbury looming in the semis. Yeah, I do think they're the team to beat, but I mean, what would I make them? Would I make them a 40% chance, something like that?
Yeah.
It's, because let's not forget we talked about Danbury, we talked about Hill House, Wilbur Cross, let's not forget Weavers in the upper half of the bracket. So I would put them as the favorite, but less than 50% to win.
I got to see Danbury do it to prove it to me. I know they're 18-2, but the FCAC was not known for being the most, outstanding conference this year for basketball, so I got to see Danbury do that. I think Hill House can certainly be there. I want to see what Trumbull can do. Can Trumbull rally? Trumbull is a 6 seed, and we haven't even mentioned them. 17-3, and a disappointing flame out in the semis of the FCAC tournament. I want to see what the Eagles can do.
I do too, and I think they can do pretty well early on because they've got a favorable matchup against South Windsor, and then the Xavier Ridgefield in the 11-22 game. Ridgefield out of the FCAC also 11-9 this year. So their first 2 games are what I would call winnable, and then of course Hill House looming in the quarters.
I know you're not on tomorrow's show, so I'll ask you this now, and we'll talk to Dave about it tomorrow as well. You have a single team that you think goes on and wins Division I in hockey?
I kind of think Xavier. I understand they're the number 1 seed. I think they've been the most consistent throughout the year. They've got some very good wins, and they've really avoided those inexplicable losses that have plagued a lot of the teams in the tournament. I think that now they've got a tough road to the finals. I mean, in Division I, it's going to be tough no matter who because you're going to get tough teams. All the teams making it, starting with round 2, you're going to get tough teams.
Right.
They've got Fairfield Prep second round potentially, and then on to the Whale. So I think it's going to be Xavier, but again, much like my pick of Fairfield Prep, I'm not entirely confident with that pick. I'd say even though I put them as the favorite, still about a 40% favorite.
I'm going to stick with Notre Dame of West Haven there, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Darien. As we wrap up this show, I was reminded of something as I'm looking at the Double L Boys brackets in basketball that I want to make sure I mention because we get to know coaches occasionally, we get to know these athletic directors especially, and we love building these relationships. Last week at the semifinals of the boys basketball tournament, our own Dan Gardella had all these guys do their best to try to get a halftime interview either as they walk off the court or come back onto the court with a coach. Buddy Bray, the head coach of Trumbull basketball last week, declined the interview. That's fine. We try to set them up ahead of time, but not every coach wants to do it. And look, every coach has their own personality. I have no issue with that, and I really didn't have an issue with Buddy declining the interview at that time. A few nights later at the championship, Coach Bray made a point of coming over, speaking with Dan Gardella, myself as well, and basically the entire crew to apologize, which was completely unnecessary, but one of the classier things I've seen done. Really was not necessary. We love Coach Bray, fine, no issue whatsoever. But I wanted to take that moment to just say, what a good guy, and he didn't have to do that, Don, and I'm fine with it.
No, I talked to a lot of people around. I don't cover sports myself, but I talk to a lot of guys that do, and it seems that it's a pretty common sentiment about Coach Bray. It's kind of a class act all the way. I don't hear anyone really having anything negative to say about him.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the other side of these, declining interviews or say yes to the interview and give one-word answers. Not anything you want to add to that? No, I'll leave you right there on that. But it does happen. Coach Bray, we love you. We have no problems whatsoever. But I wanted to take a moment and recognize him for doing what he did to come over and talk to us. That'll do it for Nutmeg Sports. Dave Stewart stands right over there tomorrow in Don's place as he Monroe curries his little heart out. And we're back with you tomorrow. No games until April 2nd, although we do have an event coming up next Monday, and we'll tell you a little more about that when time allows. But for now, Eric Gendron directing, Donald Eng over there. Thanks to Tom Keys. For all of them, I'm Rob Adams. Coffee break tomorrow morning at 11, but for now, so long, everyone.